She sold her late father's old watch. Then the buyer started crying. The scream tore through the quiet Saturday morning like a knife. Maya slammed her hands on the folding table, her eyes blazing, her voice cracking under the weight of something far heavier than anger. "You don't get to tell me what to do with his things? He's gone. He's gone, and none of you were there, none of you." Her aunt stumbled backward, knocking over a stack of old picture frames. Neighbors stopped on the sidewalk. A child on a bicycle froze and stared. Maya's hands were shaking so badly she could barely pick up the watch sitting on the velvet cloth in front of her, her father's watch, the one he wore every single day of his life, the one she had decided, in the most painful decision of her 32 years, to sell. Before we go any further, if this is your first time watching one of our videos, we'd love for you to hit that subscribe button. Your support truly means the world to us, and it helps us bring you even more powerful, emotional stories that inspire, shock, and touch the heart. Make sure you stay with us until the very end, because this story has a twist you'll never forget. And if this story moves you in any way, share your thoughts in the comments below and send this video to someone who needs to hear it today. Now, let's begin. Maya Hendricks had buried her father 6 weeks earlier. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer, 41 days from diagnosis to funeral. There had been no time to prepare, no time to say everything that needed to be said, and now there was no time to grieve properly either, because her father had left behind a mountain of debt she hadn't known existed. Medical bills, a second mortgage, credit cards maxed out on treatments that hadn't worked, the house she grew up in had to be sold. Everything inside it had to go. Her Aunt Patricia had showed up that Saturday morning with opinions Maya didn't ask for. "That watch is a family heirloom," Patricia hissed, standing at the end of the driveway with her arms crossed. "Your grandfather wore it. Your father wore it. You cannot put a price tag on it and hand it to a stranger." "I can," Maya said quietly, placing it on the display table. "And I have $40. $40? Maya, that watch is worth. It's worth $40 to me right now, because that's what I need to keep the lights on this week." She looked up, and something in her eyes must have frightened her aunt into silence, because Patricia said nothing more. She simply turned and walked away, and that was when Maya's composure finally shattered. The scream came out of nowhere and everywhere at once. After the neighbors drifted away and the morning settled back into its uncomfortable quiet, Maya stood behind the table alone. People came and went. They bought her father's books, his old tools, a lamp he'd had since the 1980s. Each transaction felt like a small funeral. Each dollar felt like a betrayal. She was wrapping a ceramic bowl for a young couple when she heard footsteps stop in front of the watch. She looked up. The man standing there was older, perhaps in his late 60s, with silver hair and the kind of deeply lined face that suggested a life lived hard and honestly. He was wearing a plain blue jacket and holding a cup of coffee. He wasn't looking at Maya. He was looking at the watch. He didn't move for a long time. "How much?" he asked finally, his voice barely above a whisper. $40, Maya said. He reached into his jacket pocket without hesitation, pulled out 2 worn $20 bills and set them gently on the table. Then he picked up the watch with both hands, and that was when it happened. His breath caught. His shoulders dropped. And then slowly, quietly, without any warning at all, the old man began to cry. Not the polite kind of crying. Not a single tear brushed away with dignity. His face crumpled. His hand came up to cover his mouth. A sound escaped him that Maya could only describe as grief, the raw, bottomless kind that has no bottom. Maya froze. "Sir, are you okay?" He couldn't speak. He just stood there holding her father's watch against his chest, his whole body shaking. "Sir," Maya said again, stepping around the table. She put her hand on his arm. "Please talk to me. What's wrong?" It took him nearly a full minute to compose himself. When he finally looked at her, his eyes were red and his voice came out broken and slow. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. I didn't expect. I never thought I'd see this again." "You've seen it before." He looked at her carefully then, studying her face. "What's your name?" Maya Hendricks." Something moved across his expression, something complicated. "Hendricks," he repeated softly. "Your father was his name, Robert." The ground seemed to tilt beneath her feet. "Yes," she whispered. "How do you know that?" The man exhaled slowly. He looked down at the watch, then back at her. "My name is Gerald Marsh. 40 years ago, your father saved my life." Maya stared at him. "We worked together on a construction crew," Gerald said. I was 26. I had a wife at home and a baby on the way, and I had just lost everything in a gambling debt I couldn't repay. The men I owed, they weren't patient men. He paused, pressing his lips together. I had decided I wasn't going to be alive by the end of that week. I had made my peace with it. I was standing on the roof of a building we were working on, and I was going to jump. Maya's hand went to her mouth. Your father found me up there, Gerald continued, his voice raw. He didn't know me very well. We'd only been working together for 2 weeks, but he sat down right next to me on that ledge and he talked to me for 4 hours. 4 hours, Maya. He didn't leave. He didn't call anyone. He just stayed. Gerald's jaw tightened. And when I finally came back down, he gave me this watch off his own wrist. He said, every time you feel like giving up, you look at this. You remember that someone sat with you. The tears were running freely down Maya's face now. She didn't try to stop them. I wore it for 15 years, Gerald said. Then one night it was stolen, a break-in at my apartment. I never stopped looking for it. He laughed softly through his tears. I used to check pawn shops, estate sales, flea markets. My wife thought I was crazy, but I couldn't let it go. It wasn't just a watch. It was the reason I was still alive. He never told me, Maya breathed. He never told me any of this. That was Robert, Gerald said simply. He wouldn't have. They stood together in the driveway of her childhood home, 2 strangers connected by a dead man's quiet act of mercy, and neither of them spoke for a long time. Then Gerald looked down at the watch and then back at Maya. I want you to keep it, he said. I can't. Please, he held it out to her. He gave it to me so I could live. I've lived. I have a son, 3 grandchildren, 38 more years than I deserved. I don't need a reminder anymore. His voice broke again. But you just lost him. You need it more than I do. Maya took the watch with trembling hands. It was heavier than she remembered. Warmer, somehow, as if it had been held with so much love over so many years that it had absorbed it all. He knew exactly what he was doing, Gerald whispered. Even back then, he always knew exactly what he was doing. Maya clutched the watch to her chest the same way Gerald had, and she understood now what he had felt, that specific grief of holding something that holds a person you can no longer reach. She cried for a long time. Gerald stayed. Just like her father had 40 years ago on a rooftop, for a man he barely knew. Because that was who Robert Hendricks was, and now, finally, his daughter knew it too.